So welcome, everybody. Glad you could make it on this gorgeous day for Victoria. So if you were in my hometown in Edmonton, it would be plus 28 today. And but it does get, it'll be minus 28 tomorrow, so that's good. You can see your colleagues and friends and supporters of the school all around us today. We are here to celebrate Bob and Joan. My name is David Angus. I am the Master of Ceremonies today. We will have a few gifts for the Snowdens and a few kind words from selected speakers. So let's get started. I'm first calling upon the head girl, Oria James, and the head boy, Christian Okiring, to provide gifts to the Snowdens on behalf of the students of the school. You're on.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here this morning, and thank you, Mr. Angus, for the introduction. Growing up, my mother always told me that behind every great man was a great woman. I don't mean to... Thank you. You guys. I don't mean to speculate, but I'm sure that over the course of his 22 years, there have been days with their challenges and tribulations for Mrs. Snowden. But I'm just as sure to say that on these days and every other day, Mrs. Snowden, Joan, has always been there uplifting him and supporting him. Mrs. Snowden, the support you have shown Mrs. Snowden over the past 22 years truly reflects the person and queen I have gotten to know during my time here. You are more than just a support for Mrs. Snowden. You are truly a pillar of encouragement and support for the entire SMUS community. Whether it is a hug, a kiss on the cheek, or incredible fashion advice, you radiate a positive and beautiful spirit, and you are truly someone I admire a lot. Thank you for being the incredible person you are.
Combined, Christian and I have 10 years of SMUS experience under our belts. That is 10 years of learning, leading, and serving, but also 10 years of seeing how much we can procrastinate on our schoolwork, 10 years of going to bed late and regretting it the next morning, 10 years of developing our own unique passions and styles. Mr. Snowden, I am inspired by you in many ways, one of which being your exquisite taste in socks. I am wearing a pair of socks today in honor of Mr. Snowden. My left sock is Mona Lisa, and my right sock has the Starry Night on it. Mr. Snowden, together with your wife Joan, you have touched lives. Whether in front of the school on stage or behind a closed door in the office, your work and dedication to St. Michael's has positively impacted every student fortunate enough to call SMUS their home. There are not enough languages spoken at this school to adequately express our thanks to you for all the work, time, energy you have put into building this community over the past 22 years. On behalf of past, present, and future SMUS students, merci, danke,谢谢, gracias, thank you.
We would now like to present you with small tokens of our appreciation for your time here over the 22 years. Thank you all. Please read.
This is for you. I don't know if you like to wear it.
Yes, put it on.
It's okay.
There we go. Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Number one ambassador.
All right.
And moving along to the next presenter, Teresa Pryce, who is the president of the Parents Auxiliary, a group of individuals who make this place hum, and they have made today hum and contributed endlessly to our success. So I call upon Teresa on behalf.
I am here on behalf of the families at the school, and our gift tells a story. It is our river's ancestors, a First Nations blanket by noted Coast Salish artist and scholar Martin Oliver. Oliver says, "My work merges the spirit of past traditions with those of the present to create new horizons for the future." Past, present, future. That's practically your job description, Bob. But the color and the dynamism, that's pure Joan. The design tells the story of the salmon people, their journey from deep ocean to river where the young are born, only to follow their ancestors' path again and again to the open ocean. Sound familiar? It should. For over 20 years, you were the stewards of St. Michael's University School, overseeing our children and families as they came to this special place, progressed, flourished, and then moved on. Like the journey of the salmon, the inexorable movement of children returning and the school year beginning played itself out for year after year after year. It's going to be strange, perhaps bittersweet, possibly thrilling, for you not to be with us this September. We'll miss you, but we think you'll be okay. Perhaps you will be reveling in your freedom at your island hideaway, gazing up at the stars sitting side by side. As you pull this blanket close to ward off the evening chill, we like to imagine that you will be reminded of the thousands of children you have shaped during your tenure at SMUS and the profound impact you have had on this community. While these memories might warm you metaphorically, we are hopeful that this fine woolen blanket will also warm you quite literally, and in doing so, it will convey, Bob and Joan, our community's warm feelings towards you, our gratitude, and our deepest regards. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Cathy Dixon, member of the Board of Governors, major renovator of Reynolds House, and a lady who's going to wing it because she lost her nose.
And that's true. Somewhere out there on the picnic on the pitch is a lovingly written speech, and if you pick it up, would you just put it on the gratitude tree for me, please? Because that's really where it should go. Oh, here it is. Where was it? I'm saved. All right then. It gives me great pleasure to thank Joan Snowden on behalf of the community and to honor Joan. While Joan's role at the school didn't have an official title, at least not one that I'm aware of, make no mistake that Joan is as important to the community and the culture of the school as Bob is to the excellence of the school itself. As well as being Bob and Joan's home, Reynolds House is a gathering place for over 80 events every year, each and every one of them hosted by Bob and Joan. If you've been to more than one of these events, or if you've come to know Joan better while being a student or a parent of a student, you may have been the beneficiary of one of Joan's hugs. Joan's hugs are legendary. But it's important to know that Joan's hugs are really an expression of Joan the person. She's one of the most loving, compassionate, and kind people I've ever met, and how lucky we've been as a community to have Joan steadfastly at Bob's side, sharing her love for everything about this school. Here's a little known fact about Joan. She's a master gardener. Perhaps better known, or you may have guessed, her favorite color is red. Red car, red shoes, red clothes. Joan loves red. So we thought it only fitting to honor Joan with something that would be a lovely reminder of her time at the school. And to that end, we've planted, in the Latin words, an Acer rubrum, otherwise known as a maple tree, and in this case, it's called an autumn glory. Joan's tree is planted and thriving right behind Wenman here on the grass island just inside the gates, and at the moment it's got a lovely red ribbon on it. So Joan, we thank you for everything you've done. SMU is better for having had you here. We will think of you often, and especially in the fall when your tree is a glorious shade of red. Enjoy your retirement, Joan. It's so richly deserved.
So that ends the gift giving. And now I call upon Brian Dyer. So you have to thank Brian. He is past board chair of the school board of governors. But more importantly, he was the chairman of the search committee that found Bob Snowden. So for that, we asked Brian to come and tell us why he really picked him.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Bob, and Joan. I guess it's been about 20-odd years since I've stood here and spoken at the school. I thought my days of doing that were over, but apparently not so. My connection with the school was because my son went to SMU from 84 to 96, and I joined the board in 91 at the suggestion of a gentleman called Chris Considine, same person, not his father, and ended up chairing the search committee in 1994. Now, interestingly, I knew nothing about search committees at that point. I'd certainly hired lots of people in my career, but I'd never been involved with a search committee, so we retained the services of a lady called Janet Wright, who apparently is the same search consultant that Chris Considine used this time. And so I guess it's the more things change, the more they stay the same. I certainly was a great believer in the search committee. We had 9 people then, and I noticed that Chris Considine had 9 people on his search committee. To me, it's a great insurance policy because you get all sorts of input from a lot of people. And it took about 4 or 5 months. We searched all over the place and ended up with a short list. So when we were discussing it with the search consultant and our committee, we pretty well ended up with the same person as our number 1 choice. That was always my concern, if you're in charge of a search committee, is that you end up with, as Mr. Considine would say, a hung jury. But that did not happen, and unanimously we agreed that Mr. Snowden was our first choice, and just for good measure, we ended up with a second choice, just in case Mr. Snowden, or Bob, decided he didn't want to come here. So we phoned the search consultant and said, Mr. Snowden is our number 1 choice. Please call him and do your thing. Following day, I got a call back from the search consultant. Bad news. Mr. Snowden is heading down to Texas this weekend. He's on the short list for a head position of a school down there. And I thought, wow, maybe I should have offered more money. Anyway, too late for all that. I got a call on January 18th, 1995 at 4 o'clock saying, Mr. Snowden has accepted the offer. we were really happy with that news. Darlene McHugh was the head of the school at that time, the chair of the board, and so she executed Bob's contract. So we were tickled to death, and of course you always wonder, did you do the right thing? Did you make the right choice? Well, one of the keys during Bob's time here was 2 words: growth and stability. Stability is really important. When I look around the school here now, when I first got on the board, virtually nothing that you see around the campus was built then in 1991. It's pretty well all new, except for Reynolds House and one of the boarding houses. What enables that? Well, what enables that is confidence. Confidence in the head, confidence in the board, and so what happens then, people give money to the school and we can do all these things. So I know from experience that when you have instability at an organization, nothing happens. So did Bob do a good job? I often wondered over the years, did we make the right choice? All I have to do is look around the campus and look and see what happened. And I think absolutely we did the right thing. We made an excellent choice. So Bob and Joan, you could say this is the end of the road, but I would prefer to think of this as the beginning of the open highway. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Our next speaker is Mr. Rob Wilson, who was head of school when Bob showed up to start his new job. Rob Wilson was also, in September of 1958, my very first teacher at this school in grade 9 English. And I probably still got his notes. I'm not sure if I actually passed or not. Rob Wilson, you're on.
Thank you, David. I'm going to start with a quote which I made up just for this very occasion. Being the headmaster of a Canadian independent school is a hazardous occupation. Statistics will actually confirm this, that it is a position with a short life expectancy. But Bob came to us as the head of Ridley College, and he's just completed 22 years at the helm here at St. Michael's University School. So, this quote does not apply to Bob, and the position has not been hazardous. I'm Bob's predecessor, and I've been head of SMUS twice for a total tenure of 1 year and 5 months. Being headmaster of a Canadian independent school is a hazardous occupation, and I've been there in a position for which I didn't even apply. Bob's longevity is a great credit to him, and I'm sure he's enjoyed the role. Meanwhile, I should probably have been a fire chief. In 1965 to 72, I taught in Ontario at St. Andrew's College, Aurora. And I mention this because going back over time, it reminds me that I've known Bob over 6 decades, going back to 1968, 1969. Bob was a student at Appleby College in Oakville. I was at St Andrews College, and the occasion was the cricket match between St Andrews and Appleby. Bob was one of the Appleby players, and I was coach of St Andrews. He was a very good school cricketer. In fact, he's an outstanding athlete. Let's go into the 70s. In 1971, Bob was now at the University of Toronto, and cricket is again the catalyst. The occasion was the Canadian Colts cricket tour of England and Denmark. A 1-month tour, 20 games. It was highly successful. I should mention that Bob was a Colt and that I was the manager of the team. I was evidently too old to play. Our next contact goes to the 1980s. 1980 to 81, Bob was here at St. Michael's University School. He'd come to us from Appleby College on a 1-year teacher exchange, an exchange with Grenfell Featherston. So Bob was here as a colleague, English teacher, a resident in Harvey House, and I think that Bob was the girls' soccer coach too. And of course, the decades 1995 onwards speak for themselves. I was also part of the headmaster selection in 1995. And it's a process that included, as we've already heard, the past chair of the board, Brian Dyer, the present chair of the board at that time, who's Darlene McHugh, and the future board chair. So Brian, Darlene, and Jim Anglin. And Jim was the chair of the selection team. And these were 3 people at that time who had made enormous contributions to our school community. From that selection process, we were indeed all pleased, 1, with the selection process, and 2, with our choice. Bob is a fine educator, and he had a clear vision as to where he wanted to take this school. And the rest is history. On the subject of history, all Canadian schools have encountered difficult times. World Wars, Great Depression, other financial setbacks, and that's without even taking into account internal school disasters. For example, the 2008 financial setback has affected quite a number of schools. The history of St. Michael's University School is no exception. In our 111 years, there have been some desperate times. But since amalgamation in 1971, co-education in 1978, we've made terrific progress. And we can be proud of our record. And that now in the year 2017, St. Michael's University School has become one of the very best schools in Canada or indeed in the world. So I sincerely and of course modestly proclaim this. In fact, I put myself under oath to tell the truth. Bob, as the person who has led us to these heights since 1995, you are owed our thanks and congratulations for a job well done. As you and Joan move to the next phase of your life, we wish you both good health, happiness, and fond memories of your distinguished career as headmaster of St. Michael's University School. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. We now come to an event that doesn't happen except at the change of guard. Well, we got one before that. Sorry. Mr. Sheehan, on behalf of the Board of Governors, you come and say a few words.
Thank you, David, and thank you to our entire community for coming out on such a beautiful day. Looks like the sun's coming out, and it's really a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Board of Governors of St. Michael's to honor both Bob and Joan. Thank you both for the incredible years of service and commitment that you've had to St. Michael's and to our community. Bob, over the last 22 years, you've led our school with vision, with passion, determination, and commitment. You've left our community in such a better place because of the efforts that you've made and you've given to our school and to our community. One only needs to look around at the facilities, at the incredible teaching staff that Bob has assembled, the highly skilled and qualified and dedicated senior leadership team that help run our school, the staff, and everyone who works and is part of our community at St. Michael's. We are truly, truly grateful for the gifts and for the time and commitment that you've given to our school. So Bob, thank you. And Joan, and as Cathy so eloquently said in your speech, you've been the energy behind all of this, and the love and compassion that you've shown for our students, for our school, and for our staff. Will be truly missed. Thank you. Special thanks go to David and Cathy for their work in putting this event together. So thank you for that. What a great thing to have and share with everyone. And also thank you to our community. Our school wouldn't be what it is without all of the folks that are here on the grass, and to our broader community, both past and present, parents, alumni. We are truly blessed to have a global community who support our school and who really help make it what it is. So for everyone here and everyone who couldn't make it around the world, thank you for being part of our community, to the Parents Auxiliary, to the Alumni Association, to the Faculty Association, and for everyone, thank you for being here and honoring the Snowdens. And I'll let the rest of the event continue, but again, thank you to Bob and Joan, and thank you to everyone for being here to support them.
Okay, now I can't remember my brilliant opening line for the section that I missed. At the change of the guard, there is an opportunity to have a vehicle that will always have the image of the leadership that has existed at our school for the past 22 years. So hidden behind me, under a closely guarded secret that will be currently unveiled by Considine and David Goldley, I ask them both to come forward and do the next job.
Well, I would just like to say first our thanks to David Goatley for painting what is a spectacular picture. And then secondly, I'd like to also say that as we unveil this, I'd ask you to all join me in saying a word which is very special in this school, which is vivat. It's a word we use when we go into sports. It's a word we have when we sign off letters as alumni. And it wishes long life and happiness to Bob and Joan. So, Bob and Joan, vivat.
Thank you, Chris and David. After we've finished this event up here, there is easy access up the ends of the stage up here. So I'd encourage you to come and have a closer look at the painting and on your own time. So now I call upon the man that we have assembled here for today, Mr. Bob Snowden.
Well, thank you, David, and thank you all for coming out today. I'm going to ask my wife, Joan, to say the first words. So, Joan, over to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Bit of a surprise. Our mission says that we are a community, and I want to tell everyone out there how thrilled I am that every part of our community is represented today. Our students, our staff, our parents and alumni, but most importantly for us, our family. So thank you all for coming. And lastly, I would like to thank my wonderful husband who married me, and if he hadn't, but he did, I have enjoyed and loved living here for the last 18 years. It has been one of the greatest joys of my life. And I'm very sorry to tell you, but I'm not leaving him behind. I'm taking him with me.
Those words are more meaningful than you might realize. Since I started my teaching career, I have lived on campus in a school that has been a boarding school. And that is going to come to an end at the end of June. So for the past 42 years, I have lived on campus at school. And so for me, it's going to be a totally new adventure. And I'm glad you're taking me with you, because I'll need help forcing my way into the outside world. It's been great to see you all here today. I cannot believe the people that I have said hello to today who've come to wish us well. Some cases, people that I haven't seen for years, and people that have come from a great distance, from Seattle, from Philadelphia. It's just fantastic. I also want to thank those who preceded me up here for their kind and generous words. The people who spoke before me, among them, have supported and guided the school and do what especially board members do, which is to preserve the legacy of the school and to pursue its vision. And together, those people, if you put their years together and added them up, their total years of experience at this school would exceed by a mile the 111 years that this school has been in existence. So to Dan and Brian and Chris and Cathy and Teresa and David, thank you for your very kind words. I'm also grateful to Rob Wilson, for not telling you quite a few things that he could have told you. Having known me for so long, having been the manager of that cricket tour to the UK, you think that representing your country in a sport as apparently stately and dignified as cricket, all of the behavior of everyone associated with the tour and the game would be above reproach. I think Rob would confirm that frequently I and one particular friend of mine on the tour were often the last to get to the bus, usually wiping the foam from a pint of beer off our lips. But Rob, I'm grateful that you didn't go into any detail at all about any number of those stories you could have told. I thank the students for saying those very kind words and for these jackets, which I have always wanted. I always wanted one. It's a great gift, and I'll wear it proudly and happily. In addition to all the people that I'm thanking who spoke before I did, I have to acknowledge that hearing what people have to say about you is sometimes an exercise in fantasy. It's hard to believe all that stuff. But you'll have to just give me a couple of hours anyway, just to enjoy it and believe it's true and so on. When you sit in the head's office at a school like this, you are very aware, certainly of successes and failures. And I feel, and many people have said so, that over the past 22 years and longer, in fact, the school has been having a very strong period of time with stability and strength that Brian referred to. But when you sit in the head's office, you're very aware of the fact that any success that happens belongs to everybody who participates in it. And I have always put my confidence and my belief in our staff, who, whether they teach our students or work in other parts of the school, but who have tended every day to the details of life at the school, but always stayed inspired to provide students with an education and an experience that is unequaled, I believe. It's the best possible education that our students could have had. I do finally want to add my thanks to the thanks of others for the support and guidance of my wife, Joan. Genuinely, it's not a job that I could do without her support. So thank you. You'll be happy to know that my words today are shorter than my tenure at the school. And I'm going to finish with the words that have been a guide for me throughout this time. And I'm confident that many of you will recognize them, but our school seeks the excellence in all of us. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay standing just for a minute. Now that you did it by yourselves, I didn't have to ask you to stand up. This has been a great event, a great recognition of the commitment by Bob and Joan to our school. And so, on the count of 3, we are going to have a 3 cheers to the Snowdens. So 1, 2, 3. Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray! Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lee.
I wanna make her feel alive, and I want her to know the winter carpoo's in the drive. This house becomes a home. She give me reason to feel love, to feel so safe and sound. And when the birds get in touch, she'll be my solid ground. I'm in the arms of a sweet young lover, and she's got a heart of gold. She thinks I'm cute, you know my mother loves her. I guess you could say I'm so